Hi, I am Douglas Bell. I am a writer and the owner of Bumbershoot Press. Living in Houston, Texas, my stories are centered around Black male perspectives, specifically living in the South, specifically Houston, Texas, and they are centered around transforming my characters using meditation and Buddhist wisdom. A lot of people would not know this, used to make my living as a magician as a young man. And at the heart of not all, but some magic tricks is a good story. A story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Most magicians are not trying to, or rather, I would say a good magician is really not trying to distract you or trick you. A magician is trying to lead you to where he or she is already standing. And that's what I feel like my stories do. My stories are here to give you a perspective you would have never considered, not so much that I'm looking to put you in my character's shoes, but I am trying to give you a truth you may have never considered. And if you hang in here with me long enough, my stories will lead you around to an evolved line of thinking where I am already standing to meet you with a handshake and a hello. My novels are generally centered around identity, and in my first two novels, Cakewalk and Love Cake, they are definitely centered around identity of my protagonist, Brian Hicks. Brian Hicks, who has fallen in love with a trans woman, has a flawed worldview of thinking that holding masculinity and holding vulnerability is a zero-sum game, meaning you can't have both. You can't be vulnerable and be masculine. Feeling that being in love with a trans woman is an attack on his masculinity, and particularly his Black masculinity, he stays closeted. Cakewalk is asking him to be vulnerable, is asking men like him to be vulnerable, is asking a man like myself to be vulnerable. Cakewalk and Love Cake were born out of an identity crisis that I was going through a long time ago regarding myself. And there was a belief that I could not hold masculinity and be vulnerable with myself and the people in my life at the same time. Cakewalk and Love Cake, these two novels are both saying that they can coexist. These two things are not a zero-sum game. These two things can exist equally together. Where in Love Cake, I'm actually showing that these two things are existing together. We redefine and we look at the stories that we've been told, and we look at what society has told us how things should be. We get to a place then where we can begin to accept ourselves for who we are. And Cakewalk is that journey for Brian Hicks, where Love Cake, now the journey is there, and they are actually trying to figure out how to be with each other given this society and world that we live in. For anyone who has picked up the second edition of Love Cake, you will see in the author's notes that I wrote that I wanted to make this second edition more aspirational. I felt like the first edition had the right tone, but there were things about it that I feel maybe were too realistic and not as aspirational as I would have liked things to be, which is the reason why I wrote this second edition. Or rewrote the first edition to make the second edition. I'm saying this because in both of these novels, and in Love Cake specifically, I am asking the reader or trying to show the reader that by learning how to sit with the things in your life, the pain in your life, the struggles in your life, you will get answers that are the most sustainable and bring about the best outcome for you in your life when you can learn to just sit. But that's where the challenge is learning how to sit with the pain, with the struggles in your life long enough for the right answers to be revealed by the universe. In this second edition, I rewrote it to bring more of an ending that would show the power of patience, that would show the power of why we learn to sit with our life so that we wind up not contriving the situation to produce an outcome that we want. So for me, through meditation and through Buddhist wisdom, I'm inviting the reader to look at this character and look at this character when he is contriving things versus when he is just simply sitting with things. Because you should see he got two totally different outcomes when he finally just sat with things. And that is the reason why I believe that the first edition was not aspirational enough, because I don't feel like I put enough there to show what was really possible when we're willing to step into the unknown, when we're willing to believe that the unknown will not harm us, when we're willing to believe that we can stop contriving the outcome or stop contriving events in order to produce the outcome that we want, because maybe the outcome that we want is not really the best outcome for us. I think that is what this is being asked in this second edition of Love Cake. And that's the reason why I wrote it a second time. My stories are very character-driven stories, and I think there always needs to be a balance between writing the dialogue and keeping the character very empathetic to the reader. My stories are very character-driven. There is an internal struggle that I'm really letting you into regarding that character and how he's feeling. Because one, he's sitting with himself. So there needs to be a very deep, nuanced understanding of really how he's feeling that is in alignment with the growth, or rather his journey at that particular time, meaning his thinking can't be too far ahead of his understanding of who he is and where he is on his journey, nor can it really be behind. And then I guess there's got to be a matching of that out in the real world. But at the same time, too, when it comes to the real world, there's a level of courage that I think is required in order to really feel strong enough to know that even though you've got this in your head, there still may be something that's keeping you from doing it, something that's limiting your ability to do it. And I think that's the balance that makes my characters still very empathetic to the reader, because I think maybe not on this particular subject, but maybe on another subject, you can see the resistance. You're reminded of your resistance to something else just as well, and maybe even why you were resistant to something. So I think where my continued growth would be as a writer, and my desire to write stories that really dig into the internal growth of an individual, and then how that is showing or how it's being actualized in his real world within the story. I think my growth as a writer will be to continue to go even deeper, but yet not so deep to where the character is no longer connecting with real journeys of individuals who are picking up my stories. So that's where I feel the real craft of what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, where I think the continued growth in my stories will kind of is my thing to work on as I continue to write. And I'm also hoping the people who read these novels, but Black men specifically, will realize that being attracted to a trans woman does not have to take away, attack your masculinity. These novels are saying, not only to these men, but for the people who know these men, is to make them aware that there is community there. There are others there. You are not alone. And I think masculinity does exactly that. It lets you know that is the only community. And I'm saying that these novels, Love Cake and Cakewalk, are saying that we should look beyond these barriers of masculinity, and particularly toxic masculinity, and particularly masculinity that is being defined by our Blackness, which is then being defined by the men in our lives. So Love Cake and Cakewalk are an opportunity for those who are interested to sit back and ask the question, can we redefine masculinity that is for the betterment of our communities? Can we redefine masculinity that makes us better partners? And not only to trans women, but to cis women too. Can we redefine masculinity that takes away shame, and guilt, and limits us from being vulnerable with the people in our lives. That is what I want Black men to get from these stories. That is what I want people who know trans attracted men to get from these stories. This is a call to ask, can we redefine what masculinity is? I say yes. I say that some of us, maybe not all of us, but some of us should look to the broader LGBTQ plus community as not only our partners, but as our community. And not because we are attracted to trans women, but because there may be things about us that has a certain level of queerness. And I'm saying only through sitting with yourself will you see and hear from the universe these broader, bigger, deeper questions about who you are and what you want and can you have enough courage to be the man that you quietly really want to be? You quietly dream about being. So that's what these novels are all about. And that's what I hope readers will get from these stories, because that's the intention behind it, is really to make us better partners, to make us better allies, and to make us better men at the end of the day. I want to thank BookLife Review for giving me this chance to speak with you, connect with you. And I think that's what it's really all about. And I think that's why, not think that, I know that's why I do what I do, is because this is an opportunity to connect with people. BookLife has given my novels, my stories, a place to be seen, a place to be read and heard. So maybe you can see who I am and you can meet me in this way and realize that these stories were written to connect with you. These stories were written to give you a perspective you maybe never considered. These stories were written to offer up a way to sit with your life, to sit with who you are, and to realize that love exists in the unknown. For some reason, not for some reason, but we a lot of times connect bad things with the unknown. These books and my future books I intend to write, the whole point of them is to let you that it is love that resides in the unknown. So don't be afraid to walk toward the unknown, because you will find love.